How's it going, everybody? And welcome to another episode of the Pursuing Greatness podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Peterson. This is the place where you can learn how to master your health, your wealth, and your love all in one place. So I hope you look forward to another great episode with another great guest. Before we get started, I do want to remind everybody that the best way to support the show is to simply subscribe, like, and share this episode with your friends. Also, if you want to get more involved with the show, check out our website at pursuinggreatnesspodcast.com. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you have your pen and paper ready to take some notes on some great wisdom coming your way. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side of the episode.
All right. And we are live. Today we have with us Craig Mathews. Craig is known as a revenue architect and big thinker. He is a business and marketing strategist and leadership development enthusiast focused on helping people achieve their highest potential as they grow their businesses into good and profitable businesses. Craig is CEO of Cardivera, a leadership development ecosystem, and co-host of the Impact Leadership podcast, which focuses on personal, team, and business growth. Craig, thank you very much for hopping on the show today. How you doing?
Oh, honored. Thank you for having me here, Gabriel.
Yeah, absolutely. To get us started, why don't you tell everybody, who you are, what you do, and how you got started down that path in the first place?
Sure, absolutely. So I've always been enthusiastic about learning and stuff. And way back when in high school, I started getting involved in student government and those types of things. Went through junior achievement, which was fantastic for teaching me about business. Got really excited about that. From there, they had an offer from Dale Carnegie. And so I went through the speakers and leaders training. And then from there, just kind of snowballed. I've always been a leadership enthusiast, somebody who's learning about that stuff. But then as I went to college and got married, I've been married for 32 years, and relationships are one of the core things that I really think about. I have great relationships with my sons, with my family, and so forth. And I guess, just being able to share some of the things that go on around that. I've also started 7 businesses or been part of 7 startups, had my own companies from software to consulting. And, it's just been a fun journey. I try to give back in a lot of different ways, but I think the relationships, what I look at there is that's what brings us the joy.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. I'm going to disagree more. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. Relationships, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Relationships are the core and the most important thing about what it is you do.
It's the juice of life.
Absolutely. So 7 businesses, that's quite a lot to start. You've had some experience there.
Around there. Yeah. I've been an entrepreneurship coach as well. I went to UNC Business School, and since then I've been coaching executive MBA startups in the entrepreneurship program. I've taught entrepreneurship there as well for the last 15 years.
Oh, wow. So, awesome.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy working with people at that early stage. And, sometimes you just got to say, you know what, your baby's ugly. It's just not going to fly. And that's probably the best advice they can hear, but some of the hardest to hear.
Yeah, I can imagine it almost being like Shark Tank, just somebody coming up, giving you a pitch and being like, oh, that's not going to sell. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, I am an encourager. I will say that. I am an encourager, and I try to find every possible way to make it work. But if it's not, like, do you really want to do this?
Do you have any specific, I don't know if this is confidentiality at all, but do you have any specific pitch that was pitched to you and you're like, wow, how did you come up with that one? That's pretty crazy.
Wow. I really kind of focus on the ones that have worked and, the good stuff, but it's really wide ranging because they have in the university, there's also the medical school, a very high-end medical school. Wow. And so there's a lot of doctors who are coming through that program to the executive MBA. And it's really interesting because we'll get medical devices as well as software startups and services companies, a variety of different things. But sometimes people just don't really understand their market. They think that everybody's like them.
Yeah.
And that's not really true. So you got to get something out there, so I just read a book recently called Start Ugly. And so you just get something out there and then you get feedback from your market. It's just like, with Lean Startup, the whole purpose is learning.
Yeah. So I do want to take take that. I do want to. It's early here in the podcast, by the way. I'm from Seattle. It's 7:00, and so my mouth hasn't started working yet.
Yeah.
Anyways, I do want to take this down the relationship path, but before
Sure.
we do, I want to. I do want to go into the startup thing just a little bit. What are the main issues that, or the main kind of roadblocks that you see, startups running into when they first get going? Is it their actual, product to market fit, or is it operations and execution?
Wow. Early stage operations and execution aren't even an option. So they're not really in that piece. And so when they're starting up, when I'm talking with them, they're still in idea stage and working through that. And then in my practice of the business, my other company, Big Think Innovation, that's where I actually advise companies on things. And so those are going to be later stage where they're actually making revenue or very close to it. And so in the early stage, it's really about, is there a market? And if there is, are they fitting it in a way that they are somewhat unique? Can they find a beachhead that's going to help them get into the market really quick? Somebody that they can give 100% solution for.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't do that, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to get traction.
Gotcha.
From the other side, yes, it does come down to some of the execution, but it really comes down to, do they have some sort of an automated way to get new clients and to keep those clients?
Oh, interesting. So from the revenue side, it sounds like, so it's more lead generation and marketing than it is in sales, than it is the operations of the actual, delivering the service.
Yeah, well, if you think of revenue as the lifeblood of your company, if you don't have that, it's really difficult to hire the right kind of people, to advertise, to do the things that you need to do to sustain the business. And so if you have some cash flow coming in, you can get some additional people to do stuff. You can hire people, you can hire technology to do those things. But if you don't have the revenue structure set up, that's why, as a revenue architect, I guess, is one of the things that I work on, is helping people figure that out.
Oh, interesting. I've had a number of people, not doing a startup per se, but launching, a small business. And I apologize for everybody who's watching on YouTube. For some reason, I'm a giant blob of.
Maybe you need to go to manual focus, or.
I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yes, people. I've had a number of people on the podcast who are launching, small businesses, maybe digital marketing firms, things like that. And when they speak to me, they're always, they're on the fence about, growing or fixing their operations, or growing or fixing their operations. And so it sounds like you would recommend them focus on the sales side, the revenue side.
Once you have an automated way to get people in and to onboard them and to keep them happy, because ultimately there are only 4 ways to make money, right? You can get more clients, you can sell more per transaction, you can have a higher transaction frequency, and you can keep customers longer. That last one is where the profit is. So if you can keep customers for longer, and you always have something to sell them, always something to add value, and if you come at it from the perspective of, I want to get more money, you're not going to be in business that long. If you're coming at from the perspective of, I want to add more value, I want to serve these people, and I market and sell so that I can serve more people, that's going to give you the longevity. You should be in it for, the greater good, I think. At least that's my philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the idea stage, so when, before they've actually launched, how do you, advise people to make sure that there is a 100% market fit there?
Wow. I don't think you can ever say there's 100% market fit, but what we do is we'll actually go through and have them go do interviews, because what's going to happen is, once they come in contact with real people, they're going to totally shift their viewpoint, because almost all the time, it's probably 75% or greater of the time, they go out there, they start doing the interviews to find out, this is the solution we're thinking about, or even better is, we're trying to solve this problem. Can you tell me more about how you're experiencing that problem? And then when they hear what people are saying, what's really top of mind for them, their solution isn't a fit. Gotcha. So it's really doing those interviews and understanding what's going on in the market. That's where you get that product market fit. And then from there, then you can create your copy, your sales copy, get the people in, create an automated sales funnel, do the nurturing, all of those things to build your sales funnel.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're actually going out and speaking with the people who would be customers once you actually launch your business.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, because if you don't do that, you're probably going to be in for a rude awakening, because what you think, and I've seen people spend years coming up with their product and really focusing on the product, and then they launch it and it's crickets. Yep. Because they didn't have a market fit. Now, some of them do what they call pivoting. I was just, we learned on one of our podcast segments this week is like, okay, you don't really want to use that term, because pivot means you're going to plant a foot and you're going to spin in circles. But, from the business parlance, you're really taking a different trajectory with your business. You're changing your business model. And so when you're doing that, it's very common for companies to do that. Their original concept isn't maybe fully baked, or they haven't talked to enough people, unless you have experienced it yourself. Like, for example, one of the doctors that we've had come through the program, he was a thoracic surgeon. And so he's in there with an x-ray machine beating down on the person, but on himself. And they wear a lead shield while they're doing the surgery. And it's on their body. They can put it around their neck. It's down their arms, and it's really heavy.
Yeah.
And so he came up with a lighter version of that, and they were going through the testing and everything else. The market is absolutely there.
Right. Because
people want to be protected. They want it to be lighter. They have back problems because of doing the surgeries.
Oh, wow.
That's a great market fit.
Huh. Wow. I didn't know. I don't know much about the medical field, but it's really interesting that they basically what you put on when you go to the dentist, right? That giant, like, heavy.
Yeah. Think about wearing that all day for 16 hours of surgery. Right. And then think about, and what happens is they get skin cancer along their arms or other parts, around their neck, their face, because that's not shielded. Now they can wear shields and stuff, but it's just not practical. And so they're coming, he was working on a lighter version of that. And so that was a really good market fit, and price point wise, it's $3,000 per one of those outfits. He's like, they will pay twice that to get what we're talking about. Because otherwise they're in pain constantly from, going to the back surgeries and stuff like that.
Huh. Man, you could feed my curiosity for days, but I want to shift it just a little bit.
Sure.
You do leadership coaching a lot. I mean, you're really about relationships. You said it at the very beginning of the podcast. You think relationships are the core of even business, and I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely.
So kind of take us down. I mean, you've done a lot of startup coaching. You've done you've been in business for a long time, and you've seen how strong relationships impact the performance of a business. So kind of take us through your eyes and tell us what you see the importance of relationships in business and how people can improve them.
Yeah. So to me, when you're coming to work, you're bringing your whole self. So my business partner at Cardavera, he talks about having a sign that says "No humans allowed." He said, if companies are going to be real with their people, at least put it out there, let them know, right? But when we look at talking about humanity inside of a business, you're really, especially if you have business partners and those people who you're working with tightly, you got to get to know them as people, not just what they can do for the company or what they can do for you. And the more that you're really there with them, living life with them, and open to just being a listening ear, that's going to really improve the quality of your relationship. Every one of my business partners from the past, I still have a great relationship with. In fact, I'm the sounding board for my very first business partner who's working on another project that I got him involved in. And it's just been really good to have those quality of relationships in the business side. And when I look at business, people say, okay, well, is this a friend or is this somebody you work with? Well, why do they have to be mutually exclusive? Right. And I look at the relationships I have in my family. My sons are 21 and 25. I mean, they choose to come over on a regular basis, and we'll have a game night or play, and we just have a great time together. My wife and I have been married for 32 years, and I'd say except for maybe the first 2 years, it's been really good. And just part of that is commitment. Part of that is understanding the expectations of each other, and I think expectations is huge in your business, at home, with your civic organizations, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to get your expectations to line up with how reality plays out. Because,
But
you always,
yeah,
you always want your expectation, or you always want great things. And then it's hard to pull those back and make them fit what is actually going to be happening. Because I mean, in my experience, it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to reel that in.
Well, so what happens if you actually communicate your expectations? You say, what, Gabe, this is what I'm looking at here. This is what I want help with. And this is my expectation for the outcome of this. How much better does that help you feel about what you're doing and knowing that, yes, I can meet those needs, or no, I can't? And then you have the discussion. If you don't think that you can actually meet those expectations, now we can have a conversation. Now there's some negotiation. Now we can say, okay, well, so you would say back to me, well, Craig, you've also asked me to do these things over here. Something, if I'm saying yes to this, I'm going to have to say no to this thing over here. Great. Fantastic conversation to have. What's the real priority? Well, yeah, we do need to get that launched. So maybe this particular project will wait a little bit. If you don't have that conversation, what's going to happen? My expectations are not met. You're going to feel bad. I'm going to feel bad. And then we have a hurt relationship, because the relationships come back to trust. And what's a trust breaker? Not doing what you say you're going to do.
I like that. I like the tie-in to trust. I mean, I agree. Integrity is relationships. It is the number one thing when it comes to relationships. But you're right. I mean, by setting expectations correctly, you kind of safeguard your integrity in the eyes of the other person, because you make sure that you guys are aligned about what you can do. And if you allow expectations to balloon in other people's eyes, then they will be let down by your, whatever you are actually able to deliver.
Yeah. And so if you're receiving it, so if somebody's coming to you and saying, I want this from you, or, maybe it's a client, maybe it's a business partner, maybe it's your spouse, or even your children, what do you expect from me in this case? In a perfect world, what does this look like that, this is the outcome? And it's like early in my relationship with my wife, we had a disagreement, and she was like, well, do you want a divorce? And I said, well, not only do I not want a divorce, but we're never going to use the D word again. Right. I said, I'm absolutely committed to you. We will work this out. We will have a great relationship. That's what I'm committed to. And if we have to work through bumps and stuff, yes, we're going to do that. But it's when somebody knows that you're all in, that you're willing to work 100%, not just 50%, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. They're willing to go further themselves, because they see it as an investment versus a lost energy expenditure.
Yeah.
I love something you said earlier. You said you come in as a whole person in business. And I mean, I love that idea because I used to be in corporate. I worked there for probably about 7 years as a management consultant. And many times it did kind of feel like a cog in the wheel, essentially. Yeah. Like I was there to do a thing, but who I was didn't matter that much. So for people who are leading businesses that are listening to this podcast, or managing a team, what recommendations could you give them to kind of make sure that people do feel felt, people do feel appreciated and understood? I know that's a hard thing to do, but no, give your 2 cents.
It's what's interesting is we had that same kind of discussion on one of our podcast episodes. So Larry English, he's the CEO of Centric Consulting. So they are basically an IT consultancy. They started the company totally virtually. They have no offices. They have over 1,000 people working there, and they are constantly getting awards for their culture. But Jeff, my business partner at Cardavera and co-host of Impact Leadership Podcast, he has known them for the last 15 years. He knows people who work there, and he's seen them grow up, and he said, that is a fantastic company. And so what Larry does is, from Jeff's perspective and some of the stories he's heard, is that they keep a watch on your vacation time. And if you don't take enough, they force you to take vacation. How's that?
I like it.
They want you, they encourage you to bring your whole self to work. If you have issues going on at home, let's talk through them, because you cannot be effective if you're thinking about these other things, right? How can we help you? How can we support you? You are a whole person. You are not just this person that's right here. And one of our other podcast guests, David Akers, one of our first ones, he was talking about in his organization, he wants to make sure that whenever somebody comes to work for him, they always leave better than they were before, a better person than when they came in. And so it's about really taking care of the people that are there. And to me, that's the core of leadership. If you are not taking care of your people, you're not a leader.
I like it. I couldn't agree more. I've said that so many times on this episode that I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So
that's what we call people first.
There you go. You said the company had no offices. They're 100% remote.
No office, 100% virtual, over 1,000 employees. I mean, this is high ticket IT consulting.
Wow.
And yeah, take a look at Centric Consulting. They're out of Ohio, but they have offices, all over.
Yeah, that was actually the next thing that I had jotted down here that I was going to ask you. I mean, we are, I'm recording this. It's August 13th, so we're deep in of 2020. So we're deep in COVID times right now, which means that many, if not the majority of companies are operating remote. They're operating, people behind their computers at home, not really interacting with their teams. And I know, a couple of my friends are in that situation and they're having a harder time because, they're not able to be with the people that they generally are able to see every day. And, it's affecting them. So how do you, I suppose maybe you can pull from that podcast, or how do you recommend people, leaders in companies shift their approach when it comes to remote work, distributed teams, things like that?
I think one of the stories I've heard is somebody who had a team. They had said, okay, well, we're going through COVID, right? And they didn't check in with their team. They didn't really, there was the company communication, but they didn't check in with their team to really ask how they were doing. And then we had the Black Lives Matters, and some of their Black employees were going through this. They didn't really check in on that until, maybe they had a conversation like, wow, I think it's time to check in. And when they finally did, the people were so appreciative that they actually cared. And so it's really about just be human yourself. One of our guests said, to be a leader is to be human. And when if we take the humanity out of that equation, those are the people leave companies for, because people leave their managers more than they leave a company.
Yeah. And
that manager that doesn't treat you like a whole human is the person that you really don't want to work for.
Yep.
But when somebody genuinely cares about you, if they're looking out for you proactively and saying, okay, where do you want to go with your career? Even beyond here, how can we prepare you for that? I've done that with some of my people. And you know what? Those people are still working for the company I used to work for 20 years ago.
I love it. Yeah. If you care about people, it's amazing what actually happens.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Craig, we are at the end of this episode. It goes by so quickly. Before we do close out, I always do a couple really quick questions. You can just spitfire them out. First one, I like books. So I always ask, if you could give a book recommendation for the topic you're talking about, either leadership or business, and then just one on life wisdom, what would that be?
Wow. So I'd say Servant Leadership by Tommy Spalding. Fantastic book. He has really good examples in there on what it means to be a servant leader. And it gets back to the humanity of leadership. And then Life and Wisdom. Wow. Back to Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I just read it again recently. What a fantastic book. If you actually apply the principles in there, man, life will be so much easier for you. It's kind of like Zig Ziglar used to say, if you're hard on yourself, life will be infinitely easier on you.
I like that. And yeah, How to Win Friends and Influence People was one of my first, when I really got into leadership development and, personal development and all those topics. It was one of my first books and one of my favorite. I don't know how many times I read that. It's so good. So great suggestions. Next question. You have had a lot of success in your life. If you could go back to the Craig who was just getting out of college, just getting into the work world, and give that Craig one piece of advice, what would it be?
Sure. I need to make a correction. It's The Heart-Led Leader by Tommy Spalding.
Heart-Led Leader.
Yep. So the advice that I would give to myself is just believe in yourself, and try different things. Figure out what your passion is, what brings you the joy. And one of the reasons for starting Cartavera, the leadership development company, is because we see people hurting in the world, and they're hurting because the people that are leading them are not doing a good job. And we know that there's a better way. And if we can help people get to that point, and that's why we created it as a membership rather than just training. And so believe in yourself. And as you're doing that, trying different things so that you can understand where you really come alive. And I realized that doing the consulting is not always as fun as being able to change lives. That's why we made the shift.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, I mean, trying and testing things out, it's happened in my life a lot. Even this podcast, just, they grow organically. And the more you try, the more you realize what actually fits with who you are.
But some people think that they have to do everything at once. And I say, be a serial trier of new things. Like I did pottery for 3 years, had my own show. I haven't touched it since. That was 23 years ago, right? I would love to do it again sometime. I'm learning to play guitar right now. It's just, the world is amazing and so full of different things that we can learn about.
I love that you did pottery. That's awesome. That's should have jumped into that one too.
It was a lot of fun. Of course, my wife decided to do that after we watched the movie Ghost. And so I said, okay, well, I'll do it with you. Well, she was 7 months pregnant, so she couldn't really center the clay on the wheel.
Or she just sits it and spins it on top.
Right.
Awesome. Next one. We all use a ton of apps and tools in our lives. I don't really like all of them, but there are some that really do contribute to our life. So if you could give one app or tool recommendation, what would it be?
Wow. Where I spend a lot of time is actually in Kartra, Kartra.
Ooh, wow, nice.
And so I know you use that. And I used to work for the company. I took a year off of what I'm doing here to actually go work with Genesis Digital to really marinate my head in digital marketing. Became one of the world experts on Kartra and how to use that to do your marketing funnels and stuff like that.
Awesome. I love that. And I got excited there for a second because I use Kartra too. It's definitely my favorite tool. And I always recommend people if they want to build a website, don't go to WordPress, go to Kartra. It's a lot easier. WordPress. There are
limitations. I mean, you don't want to build a blog on Kartra. It's not for that. But for what it does, it's a really good tool.
Yep. And sorry, WordPress people, if you're out there, WordPress is.
I use WordPress too.
Yeah.
For different reasons. Blogs. For the podcast. Yeah.
Yep. But Kartra is awesome.
Yep.
Next question. Habits are the foundation of our lives. One habit that contributes the most to your success. What is it?
My morning routine. My morning routine is I get up, take care of myself, get out, and I either walk or run about 3 to 5 miles every morning. And during that time, I'm often unplugged, and that's where the ideas are just pouring out of me. And so that is a great time for self-reflection, for understanding what's going on. But during that time, it's gratitude. So I just thankful for everything that's going on, sending love to other people, just kind of giving back in that sense. And then I have what I call life scripts, and it's a series of, I guess, what do you call them? Self-affirmations that I go through that help to shape me to who I want to be.
I love it.
And then there's the visualization time. So all of that.
Yep. Your morning routine. I love it.
Routine.
Morning routines are super important.
Yeah. Hal Elrod's the Miracle Morning.
Yep.
Fantastic book.
Yep. Final question. People listening and watching, they have loved what you said. I can already feel it. And they want to get in contact with you. What is the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So they can reach out to me at Craig@Cartavera.com. That's CARDIVERA.com. You can also go to cardavera.com and also the Impact Leadership Podcast, or it's just impactleadershippodcast.com, but the Impact Leadership Podcast, which also shows up on your podcast app.
Perfect. So cardavera.com and the Impact Leadership Podcast, and then Craig at cardavera.com.
And feel free to reach out to me at LinkedIn as well, which is just C Mathews, CMATHEWS, just one T.
Perfect. And I will put those links in the show notes for this episode. So if you want to reach out to Craig, just go down there, click through, and you can get in contact with him.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Craig, again, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciated having you on here. For everybody who joined us on this journey today, thank you guys for showing up. Again, the best way to support the show is just to subscribe, like, and share with your friends and family. And we look forward to having you guys on the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Gabe. An honor.
Thank you guys for sticking with us on another episode of the Pursuing Greatness podcast. I hope you got a lot of value out of that guest. Again, the best way to support the show is just to subscribe, like, and share with your friends and family. Also, check out pursuinggreatnesspodcast.com if you want to get more information about what we do and what we offer. I hope you guys have a great day and keep living in integrity with yourselves. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode coming shortly.